hot girls are more crazy?
Always. Do you think hot girls are more crazy in your own experience?
I've been around quite a few hot girls, but some of them can be very balanced. But give me your treatise on hot girls being crazy.
Here's what it is with very attractive women. They don't get an insight into the average man and how average men behave. They get an insight into men that are incredibly intimidated by their beauty or incredibly lustful after their beauty. So they see men either kind of ignore them, so the quiet good guys either just kind of intimidated by them, but the loud, gregarious, kind of adulterous men are after them. So they'll see guys that will leave their wives to be with you. They'll see guys that will drop everything to kind of, even if their girlfriend's in the same room, they'll quickly seek you their number. They'll see guys that will risk their jobs, if they're your boss, to be with you. So they see men as these huge risk takers that will do anything to have sex with you. So what ends up happening is she loses her naivety about a man. She no longer thinks men are faithful. She's seen so many men break up whatever they have just to be with you and just to access you. She's seen so many men who break their back just to touch you. So what happens is when her husband now says to her, there's a new colleague at work, her brain is like, well, every colleague at my work has always hit on me. Are you hitting on this girl? Or if her husband says, I'm just going to the gym, she's like, well, whenever I go to the gym, somebody hits on me. What are you doing? So they end up being suspicious because they are privy to men at their worst when they're sexually attracted to a woman. They don't have that naivety that a more plain woman would have, where she could walk past a guy in a bikini and he doesn't harass her. She knows if she walks past a guy in a bikini, he drops everything. So she sees men as more dangerous than they are, and therefore she thinks her partner is more sexual than he might be, and as a result she tends to be more intense and crazy and less naive, but not necessarily more accusatory, I would say.
Yeah, because she uses her experience about the world to predict what everybody else's experience is about the world.
And in her defense, beautiful women are also, it takes a certain level of confidence and a certain level of no fear of rejection to access a beautiful girl. So her pool of men tend to be the men that are more likely to be unfaithful.
Wow, that's interesting. So very attractive women are a selection effect for the kinds of experiences that they have in life, the kinds of interactions that they have with other women and other men. So presumably they'll often see other women as threats.
Well, they've experienced other women seeing them as threats, and they've seen the competitive nature of women, and they've seen women, because here's the thing with beautiful women. If you walk into a room with a really beautiful woman, all the other beautiful women will now start looking at you thinking, well, there must be something about, I'm sure they look at you anyway, but they would pay more attention because there must be something about Chris because she's unbelievable. So what ends up happening is with beautiful women start to see how disrespectful other women can be. They're looking at your man, they're competing with you, because to get a beautiful woman's man makes the other woman feel more attractive. If you walk in with an absolutely 12 out of 10 and then you give me attention, I now think I'm prettier than her, so therefore I want your attention more than the guy that's with the girl that's not that attractive. So we see this competitive nature of women. We see that we can put women can put men on the map, and they see that men are very soft and they give in to beauty quite quickly and easily. So they lead to a trust issue that is harder to kind of overcome.
So interesting.
Yeah, the psychology of an attractive woman is one that is very different to a psychology of a less attractive woman. They're two different species.
Yeah. So you have women seeing other women primarily as enemies. They're often going to be frosty to them.
Yeah.
They're also kind of hyper aware of the power that they can bestow on the partner that they're with, which probably makes them a little bit tentative about giving that man that power, because if they pre-select that particular type of man,
you're putting him on the map.
Yep. And then you also said that these women, being super attractive, selects for a very specific type of guy that is sufficiently confident to go up and speak to you, or men will make ridiculous and wild U-turns in their life in an attempt to get to you, which also gives you a pretty unrepresentative experience of what most men are like.
Yeah, and then when the looks start to fade, it's a harder transition for them. When the looks start to fade from a woman who is quite plain, she sees it as life. When the looks start to fade with an attractive woman, she sees it as disastrous because a lot of the power has gone. So they might, not always, but they might respond to it with a lot more insecurity, especially after children. But if she has good values, she recognizes that the looks are replaced with family connection. But if she doesn't have good values and her identity is built on her appearance, you'll see that she'll go through more and more extents to kind of prove her attractiveness, and that might lead to promiscuity. So her identity can't be designed and around her looks. It will make her very fragile.
It's rough.
Yeah,
being an attractive woman must be hard. Like, genuinely, it must be very difficult to try and go through the world, because with men, typically, their value to the world doesn't wax and wane in quite the same way.
No.
You know, it starts off low. Even super attractive guys will remain being attractive for a very long time.
Forever.
And you just have this sort of slow and steady increase, presumably, and then it'll dip out, and then it'll start to even off towards.
And when it dips, you don't care if it dips. By that time, you're so settled in life, you don't care. But for women, it can dip a lot earlier. And there's a lot of talk about pretty privilege and pretty privilege this and pretty privilege that, but there's lots of disadvantages. And the main thing is people look for your flaws a lot more. What happens when you're not attractive is people can accept what you're saying and doing, and they don't really delve into it. But when you're attractive, there's an element of other women or even men saying, well, I bet she's dumb. Well, I bet she's a hoe. Or I bet they're looking for the negative so much more. And then they'll say, I bet she's really arrogant and very vain. So you almost have to work against people's negative assumptions of your character. As much as they make positive assumptions of your appearance, they make lots of negative assumptions about your character. So you're in a bit of a battle, and then it's not as easy as it might look to other people.
I was a model for a decade and a half in the UK, and I saw a lot of the girls almost counter signal. They would turn up in the most slouchy clothes that they could. You know, they would purposefully wear their hair up. They would purposefully wear glasses. They wouldn't wear revealing clothes. They would try and act in ways that were more bookish sometimes as well. And this could just be their personality. It could have been the girls that I was around. But I also think there might be something going on here that they're trying to counter signal. I am more than just what I'm currently being paid for as a part of my career. I'm more than just a pretty face. I'm more than just a lingerie model. I'm more than just someone that's supposed to smile and giggle and look nice on camera.
And is it hard for men to realize that they're more than that, or is it hard for them to can they compartmentalize and think that she's got more to her?
That's a good question.
Or do they get overwhelmingly attached to her appearance?
So there's a big difference between beauty and hotness, and most models, at least the ones that I was working with, it wasn't sort of glamour stuff or underwear stuff that much. It was, like fashion stuff. It was like cutesy, editorial, girl next door type thing. Right. So it was probably optimizing more for beauty than it was more for hotness.
Elegant? Okay.
Yeah. But certainly when it comes to hotness, it's a fucking reality distortion field for men, right? And this is what we would say. This is the word that was coming to my mind as you were talking about this, that the reality of a very, very hot woman is like a sphere that follows around her, just distorting all of her experiences with women, with men, at restaurants, getting into nightclubs, with careers, everything.
Yeah, the super hot, sexy woman gets it probably the worst because they activate a man's short-term mating strategies. They have long-term mating strategies with who they want a family with, and short-term who they just want to mate with. And they activate that in men. So a really sexy girl will activate a man's short-term mating strategies. And she'll also activate threats in women. Now, women's usual threats when they're threatened with a woman is to go suggest that she's promiscuous. So they might say to the man, oh yeah, but she's really promiscuous, not realizing that actually makes her more attractive to them. Because they're like, well, I'm only looking for a short-term promiscuous.
Are you trying to sell her to me?
Yeah, so they think that they're actually undermining her by saying she's so promiscuous and she's a slut and she's this, that, and the other. But the man, when his short-term mating strategies are activated, that's exactly what he's looking for. So she ends up with men who just want short-term mating strategies. And as a result, she starts to see men as seeing disposable. And therefore, it can be really negative for the hot woman.
It does make sense about why it would be hard to have a normal mindset. I'm aware that it's
like the
easy.
Pamela Anderson effect.
Yeah, it's easy to throw shade. Like, oh, hot girl's crazy. Like, it's easy to just throw shade at them. But this is why I like these kinds of conversations, because it really helps everybody to understand the experienced psychology, the lived experience of somebody that's on that side of the fence. And you can say, pretty privilege, the halo effect, she's getting in for free at nightclubs and blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, but what if she's got 0 female friends? Yeah. What if she can't find a female friend that doesn't see her as an enemy, an adversary, or a competitor? What if every single guy that she spends time with is terrified to speak to her, or it's so interesting. So on the other side of the fence, do you think it's more difficult for successful or desirable men to settle down?
It's only difficult when they grew up when they've got low self-esteem. For men, their success with relationships is very much determined by their self-esteem. Women can get a shortcut with their appearance and so on and so forth. For men, their self-esteem is either going to propel them into a great relationship or prevent them from any kind of stability. Now, if he grew up without any validation and not knowing if he was attractive, what happens is his self-esteem is almost blocked at that stage of life, and then he can still be a sucker to women and still kind of accept the unacceptable simply because he wants to be desired. But if he has good self-esteem and good boundaries, he will never suffer in relationships. He just won't, because he knows when he's welcome, he knows when he's not accepted, and when the relationship's not working, and he has a willingness to walk away. So the thing is, money with low self-esteem is really, really difficult. It's a very lonely path. It's a lot of gold diggers, it's a lot of escorts, it's a lot of partying, even at the olden age. Now, money with high self-esteem and good values is, it's still difficult, but you can create something out of that.
What about successful women?
They struggle. They really struggle, because essentially with successful women, here's the thing. Men always say, oh, when women earn more, they leave men, but they don't realize why. There's actually studies to show that when men are with women that earn more than them, they produce more cortisol. They're actually more angry and stressed around her. And that obviously has a negative impact on their testosterone. So they're actually less sexually attracted to her. And so they're meaner to her. They're mean. And also they don't treat her the same way. If a man is dating a woman who knows is unemployed, say if he's on £20,000 a year, he'll still use whatever he has to treat her well, like, look after her. But if he's on £20,000 a year and she's on 50,000, he'll use nothing to invest in her. Now, women don't need your money, but they do need your investment, because that's how men fall in love. The more they invest in something, the more they attach to it. If they invest a lot of money in a car, they really care about it. Lost a lot of money into a Bitcoin, they want to see it go up. Invest money into a woman, they want to see it work out. So when they are with a woman that earns more, they invest so little, so walking away seems so easy for them, and it seems so hard for her because she's been the one that's investing in them. So it's very difficult. It's not just the woman who's rich and now she leaves you. The man no longer adds any value. That is the main issue. He doesn't use whatever tiny resources he has on the woman like he normally would.
How can people better deal with jealousy then in relationships? It's
very difficult when it's activated, because it comes from some childhood trauma and stuff. So when it's activated, that loneliness and that rejection is activated as it may have been as a child, and it's like the world is over when somebody's jealous. But I think in my experience of working, and even my own experience of jealousy, the only thing that helps remove jealousy is really building an identity outside of the relationship. If jealous people tend to place their entire self-worth and identity on the happiness of their partner and how attracted their partner is to them and what their partner is doing. Now, the reason why that's so fragile is because your partner he's a fallible person who's going to have times where they look at somebody else, they might be attracted, whatever happens, their entire identity is crushed. So to remove that jealousy, you really have to create an identity outside of the relationship, which gives you the confidence that if this relationship is great, I'm going to be in it. If it doesn't work for me, it's okay. I can go somewhere else. But that fear of letting go and fear of that they're going to find somebody else, it means that they're in a constant competition with their partner, and they're almost terrified that their partner's going to meet somebody else. But really, when you build your own identity, you realize if they do meet somebody else, they're no longer the person you loved anyway. So it's okay. You almost have a zen attitude towards it, but it's very difficult. Do you ever suffer with jealousy?
Not massively, but that's been improved by having more things occur in life that have given me a more stable foundation. One of the challenges, I suppose, is that if you get jealous, you have two very difficult choices. One is tell your partner. That can go badly. That can be perceived in the wrong way, or even if it's perceived in the right way, it can change the way that you are perceived. And the other one is to just swallow it yourself and deal with it on your own, which then begins to create a trend in a relationship of keeping things from your partner.
But it doesn't actually stay in your side. You think you're swallowing it, but you're then manifesting it in the form of checking when they're online, checking who they're following, checking, and then bursting at small things, not the real issue. So when your partner turns up late or doesn't reply to your text, then you over-exaggerate your response because that jealousy has been kept inside. So it doesn't go anywhere when you keep it in. It stays inside you. Your body keeps score of it, as they say. Exactly. So the reality is, by expressing it, and with the right person, they'll try and help you soothe that jealousy with some reassurance. With the wrong person, they'll make you feel stupid and pathetic. Maybe you are being stupid and pathetic and they can't handle it, but they'll make you feel that way, and then the jealousy then exaggerates and increases. So it's a good test of your compatibility if you do explain it to your partner.
One of the things I've been thinking about is almost like historical jealousy. And this